There are many, many, many flashlight brands. This is another one. And I like to try different things, so I thought I'd cover this one. This one is from Brinyte, who I've never heard of before, so I did a little research and saw that they actually went to SHOT Show in 2025. Apparently they've been around since 2009, so it's actually a good amount of time. It is a Chinese brand, so it's made in China. I'm not being paid by them, but I was sent this light to check out. This model is called the PT16. It has a max output of 2000 lumens and has a 5000 milliamp hour 21700 rechargeable lithium ion battery. It's rechargeable, but there's no port on the battery, so you have to charge it up while it's in the battery. And that's done via this USB-C port on the back, which is covered by this rubber to help keep dust and water out. It is IP68 rated as well. The immediate thing that sticks out to me is there are 3 buttons on this flashlight. So on the back you get 2, and you get 1 up front here as well. With 3 buttons, that can make things a little bit complicated, and I'll get to that in a minute. There is no magnet on the back. Instead, you get buttons, which I actually prefer. I don't personally love having the magnet on the back. I'd rather have a push button because I like to hold the flashlight like this most of the time. The last couple flashlights I've reviewed have had magnets on the back. And what's really nice is this one has momentary. So with this tail button here, you can just put some pressure on it and it's momentary, which is great because, you know, it's not a huge ask, but there's a ton of flashlights that don't have it. I've covered a few flashlights on here that didn't have it, and it's something I look for in a flashlight because I end up using it more than just clicking it on. 90% of the time, I just need a little bit of light, so, you know, instead of clicking it, I'll just, you know, put a little pressure on there, see what I need to see, and that's done. Something I noticed about the light is that the front button shines green, and there is a way that you can turn that off, but apparently it uses a minuscule amount of battery, not enough to do anything to the battery or drain the battery. It glows green, so when it's dark, you can see the flashlight and locate it easier. You got a pocket clip on the side, and you have this little ring around the outside, which not only acts as an anti-roll device, but when you're holding it, it kind of locks in between your fingers and makes you have a good grip on the light as well. On the back where the button is, you have these ridges or little ears there, and that kind of protects the button from being depressed when you don't want it to. On the sheet, we got a max of 2000 lumens on the turbo, and they tell you the runtime in minutes. So it's 2 minutes plus the 130, which I'm assuming it runs on turbo for 2 minutes, changes over to high, which is the 820 lumens. That's 200 minutes, medium is 130 lumens, and the low is 10 lumens, and that's for 16,800 minutes. So you can do the math there. You also get a strobe mode and an SOS mode. Beam distance is 600 meters or 556 yards with 92,500 candela. The flashlight weighs 5.3 ounces without the battery inside. It says it uses a luminous LED with a lifespan of 50,000 hours. So I mentioned that because it has 3 buttons, it can get a little bit confusing. Well, let me show you what I mean. So we'll start with just the tail cap real quick. So if you press the tail cap down, it defaults to the turbo mode. So you're getting the full 2000 lumens when you press that tail cap down. And you can just turn it on, off. That's it. That's all that button does, on and off. And also the momentary if you're just putting pressure on it, right? So the second button on the back is your strobe mode. So you just press that down and it gives you the strobe. You let it go and the strobe stops. This button cannot be clicked and turned on. It's just a momentary. You put the strobe on, take your finger away, it turns it off. Now if you press down the tail cap in the back, now you can use this second button, the strobe button. If you click that, it'll go through your modes. So it'll go to low, medium, high, and back to the turbo. If you want strobe and you're pressing this button, there's no strobe. What you have to do is hold that down for about a second and your strobe will start. Okay, and you let it go, well, the strobe actually keeps going until you either press the strobe button again or you press the big button and it turns the light off. So what does this center button do? If you press it, you'll notice nothing is happening. Well, you actually, to be able to use this front button, you actually have to press it 3 times. You'll see it flash, and now when you press it, you can turn it on. And this will remember the last mode it was on. So it's on low right now. You can go medium, high, turbo. You can press it again and it'll cycle through those modes. To turn it off, instead of pressing it, you actually have to hold it down and it turns itself off. Now, when you turn it on from the center button, if you press the back tail cap button, it'll default onto turbo mode. And then you can press that to turn it off. Now if you press the center button again, now it defaults to the turbo because that's the last thing you had it on. But if you press the tail cap with the turbo on, nothing happens because I went to the turbo from the center button, and now I press this and it defaults to the turbo again, but through this button, which, you know, then I could change it, turn it off. That's really weird. So I have it on turbo from the center button. I press the back rear button and it doesn't turn off. It just goes to turbo again. I can press it and that turns it off. If I turn that on and change it from the center button again, now I can turn it off. So if you turn it on from the center cap, to turn it off, you have to hold the button down. And then if you have it on from the center button, press the rear button, it switches over to the center button. And to turn that off, you need to press the tail cap. Because if you do this button again, it'll just keep changing it from this mode. But you can turn it off. But you can't turn it off by holding it down. If you turn it on from the tail cap and you hold the center button, you cannot turn it down. It'll flash. So I'm holding that down, but it doesn't turn itself off. You actually have to press the tail button. So depending on whether you turn the flashlight on from the front button or the back button, it changes the way that you can turn the flashlight off, which is strange. But that's not all. If I turn it on from the center button, this second button, that was the strobe button, if I press that, it won't change through the modes. It will, if I press it, it just kind of turns it off. That's because if I have it on from the center button, I can hold that down, and now I have strobe. And I can let it go, turn it off. The buttons work differently based on how you turn the flashlight on. If you turn it on from the center, you have different operation of the light versus if you turn it on using the tail cap. And that's what I mean by it's a little bit confusing, because if even playing around with this light a lot, I'm still kind of figuring it out. Like there's a lot going on with it because there's these 3 buttons and the way it's kind of programmed. If you had multiple flashlights and you just went to go use this one time, it might be a little bit confusing. You're not going to be able to just intuitively get it right away. If this was your only flashlight and you got really good at operating it, then, you know, you'd obviously have no problem with it. But it's a bit complicated. Don't know if it even needs to have that center button, to be honest. Just the rear buttons would probably work fine, but you know, it is what it is. But that's the operation of the light, and that's, yeah, it's a little bit confusing. A lot of options though. I'm not telling you to go out and buy this flashlight. I'm just making a video on it. And I want you guys to know that just because a company sends me something for free doesn't mean I'm going to go tell everyone to buy it. I just like to test different things out and report my experiences with it. And if I get the opportunity to try something new out, I'm going to take it. You know, I actually forgot to mention the price. I've seen it for around $80 on Amazon, so that's about what the price is for it. So I appreciate you watching this video. Leave a like, write a comment, let me know what you think about the light. I'll see you later.